2. You're going to leave it on that?
Yeah, let us do it.
What if you plug the big one back in at 2? Would that make any difference?
I think I'll just leave it and do testing.
So it's all right from down the bottom?
Yeah. Okay.
Well, good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Richard Cruz, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Warrant Officer Nikolai Raff. As always, we welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you're able, I invite you all to please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's first World War official historian. Bean landed with the troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war or on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Private John Lewes Davison Gower. John Gower was born on the 14th of October 1885 in Blakiston, South Australia, the son of the Reverend John and Elizabeth Gower. He grew up in Blakiston, attending the nearby Handolph College, and later went to St Peter's College. Gower played lacrosse at the East Torrens Lacrosse Club and worked his way up to be captain of the A-grade team. In 1913, he was presented a trophy for being the best all-round player during the 1913 season. He was working as a clerk and living in Littlehampton near Mount Barker when the First World War began. Gower enlisted at Morfettville Racecourse on the 19th of August 1914, joining the newly raised 10th Battalion. As the Australian Infantry Battalions had initially adopted the British 8-company system, Gower was assigned to E Company. A little over a month of training followed before Gower embarked with the 10th Battalion from Outer Harbour, Adelaide, aboard the transport ship Acanius. After a stop at Fremantle, where several companies of the 11th Battalion were embarked, Acanius joined the Australian Imperial Forces' first convoy, which had formed up at departed from Albany. After an eventful voyage, which included the sinking of the German raider Emden and the collision between Acanius and another vessel, the men of the 10th Battalion began disembarking at Alexandria in Egypt in mid-December. Several months of hard training in the desert followed, but there were frequent periods of leave for the men to explore Cairo and its surrounds. During this period, the Australian Infantry Battalions reformed to the British 4-company model, and Gower became a member of B Company. In March, the 10th Battalion and other battalions in the 3rd Brigade sailed for Lemnos in preparation for the Gallipoli campaign. Shortly before the landing, Gower was seconded to the 10th Battalion Scouts, commanded by his former lacrosse teammate, Lieutenant Eric Talbot Smith. Gower went ashore as part of the initial landing force in the pre-dawn hours of the 25th of April. The fighting inland quickly became heavily and confused. Captain Harold Seeger later wrote to Gower's sister, Millicent, describing the manner of her brother's death. "I beg to inform you that your brother landed on April 25th with the battalion scouts under Lieutenant Talbot Smith. I have made full inquiries concerning him and have ascertained from his comrades that he rejoined the company about 8:30 a.m. on the same date. About 9 a.m, he formed part of the screen that went out a short distance in front to cover the company while they were entrenching. Shortly afterwards, the Turks opened fire and the screen retired. He failed to return with the others, and his comrades are inclined to think he was hit while returning. I'm afraid that if he had been wounded and taken prisoner, we should have heard before this." Gower was initially listed as missing in action, but inquiry held in October that year found that he'd been killed on the morning of the landing. He was 29 years old. His body was not recovered, nor was it identified after the war. As a result, his name was added to those of the missing listed at the Lone Pine Memorial. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private John Lewes Davison Gower, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes this evening's last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.